Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Another day of football, another night of European football, and we have come to now know who are the semi-finalists and who will be in the Champions League semi-finals. Next month, I believe that they will be played, or end of this month. I don't really know when, but Arsenal beat Real Madrid 5-1 on aggregate with a 2-1 win at the Bernabeu tonight. And Inter Milan beat Bayern 4-3 on aggregate, 2-2 on the night, but 4-3 on aggregate to go through to the Champions League semi-finals. We're going to talk about both games. We're going to talk about Barcelona as well. We're going to talk about PSG, but we need to focus on tonight. And that's the big story that Arsenal have beaten Real Madrid 5-1, Inter have beaten Bayern 4-3. If you're new to the channel, guys, and you like my content, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to leave comments under the video of what type of videos you want to see. And I'd love to get some of you involved. So do subscribe. On the road to 500 subs, and can't do without you guys. So thank you very much for the support on the channel. But look, let's dive into the first game that we need to talk about. And that's Arsenal versus Real Madrid. And I remember personally when the tie was first announced and when Arsenal drew Real Madrid in the quarterfinals, sorry. I was like, this could be a bit of a sticky tie for Arsenal. But the closer I got towards the game last week where Arsenal beat Real Madrid, Real Madrid were not in the greatest of forms. You know, they haven't been for quite some time. Arsenal haven't been themselves as well in the league. They obviously find themselves 13 points behind leaders Liverpool. But they've put all their attention onto the Champions League, and it's kind of been justified. You know, they're drawing to Brentford on the weekend and then going to the Bernabeu a couple of days later and, you know, beating Real Madrid in their own backyard. And I've watched Real Madrid this season. I've seen them being beaten by, you know, Barcelona. I've seen Manchester City have a draw with them at home, and obviously we know how poor City have been, you know, across the season this year. And I just thought something's not right with Real Madrid. I watched them against Liverpool early in the season. I thought they're not the same Real Madrid. Inter Milan, AC Milan, were able to beat them at the Bernabeu. So there's a lot of things going against Real Madrid. Something seemed very, very off, and maybe it's Ancelotti's tactics, maybe it's the players. Who knows? But credit when credit's due. Arsenal battered Real Madrid. Let's make that very, very clear. What Arsenal did to Real Madrid over two legs was an absolute footballing lesson. 3-0 at the Emirates, 2-1 at the Bernabeu. The defensive structure of Arsenal in that second leg, the defensive performance they put out tonight, Real Madrid probably didn't even have a shot of any merit bar the goal, Vinicius Jr. And that came from an error and a lapse of concentration from William Saliba. Other than that, Real Madrid didn't even land a glove on Arsenal. Obviously, they had a penalty that was overturned. Arsenal had their own penalty, and it was a miss by Bukayo Saka. But other than that, Real Madrid didn't do anything in the game. In the whole tie, even, Real Madrid were not even, they weren't even able to land a blow on Arsenal. And that's where you have to give Mikel Arteta the credit he deserves, because he outcoached, outclassed, and outperformed Carlo Ancelotti, a man who is the most successful manager in the history of the Champions League, completely tactically outwitted by the brilliance of Mikel Arteta. And it's a kind of a coming of age for Arsenal, because we've been critical of Arsenal in their league form, you know, how they've not been able to get that big trophy, whether it's the Premier League or the Champions League. They're not going to win the Premier League this season. But boy, oh boy, do they have a great opportunity of winning the Champions League this year. They're into the semi-finals for the first time since 2009. 16 years since they last made the Champions League semi-finals. And Mikel Arteta has made history. And I never understood it. I understand fans are going to be critical of Mikel Arteta, especially the amount of money that he spent and the trophies. He's not really won anything of, you know, significant importance. I'm talking about, you know, the Premier League and the Champions League. So, of course, fans are going to be critical. But I never understood, get Arteta out, sack him. He took Arsenal from 8th position to 2nd in the league. People say he spent money. I get that he spent money. You have to spend money to win. Pep Guardiola spends money. Sir Alex Ferguson spent money. Jose Mourinho spent money. Jurgen Klopp spent money. Carlo Ancelotti spends money. You have to spend money if you want to succeed. And Arsenal are 2 games away from the Champions League final. And I don't think people are understanding how insane that is. Knowing where Arsenal even were in the latter stages of Arsene Wenger and the early stages of Unai Emery to what they are now in 5 years, it's quite absurd. It's genuinely absurd. They weren't even a top 4 side a couple of years ago. 21-22, they finished 5th in the league. They're now finishing 2nd. and they're in the Champions League semi-finals where they're going to be playing Paris Saint-Germain, who I believe will win the competition, but that's another story. You have to give Arsenal credit because he doesn't have a striker. He's missing Gabriel. His starting left back, which we all thought was going to start this season, Calafiori, is not playing. He's been plagued by injuries this season. He's got Mikel Merino up front and a half-fit Saka. And Martinelli's out of form, etc. And even he scored today. And that's where you have to give Arteta credit because he got it right. He got it bang on, spot on the money. Because that could have gone very, very wrong. But maturity at this stage, a lot of these Arsenal players have not played at this level before. And to put a performance like that against the 15-time European champions, the current holders of the competition, it's generally sensational. Declan Rice, take your hat off. Miles Lewis-Skelly, take your hats off. Mikel Merino, take your hats off. Saka, take your hat off. Top performances at a top stage. And it's why Arsenal have a real chance now of going all the way to the final. And now it's not going to be easy. They play Paris Saint-Germain. And we saw what PSG were able to do over 2 legs after beating Aston Villa. They beat Liverpool in the last round and are arguably the competition's favourites, the way they play football. They're a very, very strong team where I don't pinpoint a weakness in their 11. They've got a strong, all-balanced 11. But Arsenal have beaten PSG this season. They've beaten Paris Saint-Germain at the Emirates. Now, albeit it might be a different PSG side. They might be a bit more experienced now. They've got Kvaratskhelia in. They've had a longest and they've had a period of time together now where they can understand each other. Vitinha, João Neves, Fabian Ruiz, Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, Doué, Dembele, who's in the form of his life, along with the impeccable defense of Paris Saint-Germain with the flying fullbacks of Hakimi and Nuno Mendes, who I think as a pair, arguably Europe's best fullbacks. So it's not going to be easy for Arsenal, but they know how to beat PSG. Mikel Arteta's done it before. He's done it before. Now, in a semi-final, it might be a different situation. But to knock out Real Madrid, I don't think anybody thought that. All these Real Madrid fans and these players are talking about remontada. Oh, see you on 9 p.m. on Wednesday. It's embarrassing. Football's played on the pitch. Stop doing the talking. You've just been beaten 3-0. Go and deliver. And they didn't deliver. Plain and simple. So everybody can talk the game. But when you need to step up, you don't step up. And Arsenal did, and they won the game. Simple as that. Credit to Mikel Arteta and credit to Arsenal. Now, another game, let's move on. Another game that was played on the night was Inter Milan versus Bayern Munich. Inzaghi, what a coach. Another man who has come into Inter Milan and restored their European pedigree. I think since 2010 or something, whatever it was, they'd only made past the round of 16 once. Inzaghi, they've done it twice in the tenure in Inzaghi. Obviously making the final in 2023, losing to City, and now they're in a semi-final where they're going to be playing Barcelona. An heritage game themselves. Inter Milan are one of Europe's great clubs. And seeing them back on this stage, it brings happiness to me because Mourinho won a treble with Inter Milan. They're a top European club. They're a footballing giant. They've had some of the best players to ever play the game. And to see them go toe-to-toe with the likes of Bayern Munich and beat them. And they did very, very well. They've beaten Inter Milan, another club that beaten Arsenal this season as well. So again, they're no prisoners to success and prisoners to beating big clubs because they can do it. And they've got a really, really tough game against Barcelona. Now, do I think Inter Milan will beat Barcelona? I think when it comes to that, we have to speak about when it comes to that. But what they've been able to do under Simeone Inzaghi is, I think it's ridiculous. I think he is an unbelievable coach, one of the best around, stabilizing them as one of Europe's top clubs. Obviously you saw what Inter were before Antonio Conte. To replace Antonio Conte and to do what he's done this season, I think it's quite insane. And people are going to be critical of what Inter are as a football club, and they obviously haven't won as many trophies as they would have liked in the last 10 years. But it's the current champions of the Serie A. They're going to win the league this season as well, and they are on course to make the final because they play Barcelona, and obviously Barcelona are one of Europe's best clubs as well. Excuse me. But I think they've got a real chance this year, Inter Milan, especially the experience that this squad has. This Barcelona team's quite raw in terms of they've also not been playing at this level for a long time. I look at the Barcelona team as well. You look at Rafinha, he's never played at this level. Lewandowski, he's won the Champions League with Bayern Munich. But apart from him, you look around, Yamal is quite young. Pedri's not been there. You know, Fermin Lopez has not been there. Balde's not been there. You've got Wojciech Szczesny. Obviously, he's been there with Juve, but if you look at the general team, it's a very inexperienced team at this level, Barcelona. Obviously, as a club, they aren't. But in terms of the team they have now, we know how important that is because, look, Arsenal are very inexperienced and people speak about heritage all the time. And I always said heritage has no relevance to the game. If you want to talk about heritage, go back to 15 years ago. Oh, yeah, heritage, this, heritage, that. Football's played on the pitch. If you're better than the opponent on the night, you're going to win. Simple as that. Forget what you've won in the 20 years. Otherwise, football will just be a history lesson. And Barcelona are no prisoners to success themselves in Europe, but they need to be on their top game against Inter Milan because Inter Milan are finalists of 2 years ago. And recent history, I can buy that. But even then, football's played now. And that, I think, is a game that's going to be very, very telling of who's going to win the competition between Inter and Barcelona. I back Inter Milan and I back Paris Saint-Germain against Arsenal. But football can change. But Lautaro Martinez, top striker, over the 2 legs, best performing player. Barella, Di Marco, Bastoni, Bissek, they've got such a strong team. And I think for Bayern Munich, it's a bit of a nearly again, where they're still kind of trying to break that barrier of becoming that top team again. Obviously, they were in the semi-finals last season, beaten by Real Madrid. But Vincent Kompany, he's done good things for Bayern Munich. Obviously, this season they're gonna win the Bundesliga. You know, obviously they didn't win it last year, so it's good that he's going to get a league title to his name. But in Europe, I think the jury's still out for them, and I think they need to step it up a bit if they want to go and win the competition next season. So, Arsenal versus Paris Saint-Germain, Inter Milan versus Bayern Munich. PSG are brilliant. I think they are the overwhelming favourites to win the competition. I think they have the best players, they have the best coach, and I think they have the most balanced 11. And I saw them, that's not only because they played Liverpool, I watched them and they were impeccable, but obviously Villa were able to beat them yesterday, but I think the maturity of the team, maturity of the team, and the balance that they have, I think there's no team in Europe that touches them. And I saw what they did to Manchester City. They're capable of beating anybody. And I seriously back them. And they've got a really, really good team, really, really good players, and really, really good structure. And I think Arsenal, if they want to win this competition, just to put it simply, if Arsenal beat PSG, they will win the Champions League. They will win the Champions League. I believe anyway, because that will be a real statement. And here come the Arsenal fans saying, "Oh, we beat them already." Beat them already. It's not the same team. It's not the same team. Arsenal are weaker. Obviously, Saka's still coming back to fitness. Obviously, Thomas Partey is going to miss the first leg, yellow card that he's got tonight. So that's going to be a real blow to Arsenal. But look, PSG, Barcelona, Inter Milan, Arsenal, 4 of the best teams in European football, going toe-to-toe. And it's going to be nice because it's going to be a kind of a new winner of the Champions League. It's not going to be, obviously, Man City always make the final. Look, Barcelona haven't won it since 2015. Inter Milan haven't won it since 2010. 2010? Yeah, under Jose Mourinho. Arsenal have never won the competition, and Paris Saint-Germain have never won the competition. So it's going to be kind of a newish kind of winner. So that will be nice to see. I hope it's PSG. I hope it's Inter Milan. I hope it's Barcelona. I don't hope it's Arsenal, but whoever wins it will deserve it. And I'm sure these 4 teams are going to put on masterclasses in the semi-finals. Got some thrilling games, and I think this should kind of settle the nerves a bit. That Liverpool, what they're doing in the league this season, is really, really good because Arsenal have beaten Real Madrid in the Champions League. So anybody that kind of is criticizing the Premier League, I don't know many teams that go to Real Madrid over 2 legs and beat them 5-1. So I think perspective needs to be put out there that everyone is saying that Liverpool are not as good as people think, which I think can still be true because I think there's still levels Liverpool need to get to. But if this is the start of what Arsenal and Liverpool can do, boy, this is going to be a very, very impressive couple of years in the Premier League. But guys, PSG versus Arsenal, Inter Milan versus Barcelona. Who is going to win the Champions League? Get your comments in below, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.